Hi, my name is Paul Cresswell. Welcome to Paul's Tackle Reviews. The purpose of this channel is to give you some reviews of tackle and tips been out on the bank, tried and tested by an unbiased, unsponsored angler, and that's me. Today I'm looking at 2-inch hook lengths, which might seem a bit of a specialist subject, but it's something I've been trying over the last year with some success. So when I'm fishing the method or the pellet feeder or the hybrid feeder, I use pre-tied hook lengths. I buy them in the shop. Now I tie all my normal hook lengths without bands, spikes, etc. And I've done a video review of the little electronic device I do for that, I use. But when it comes to bands, bait spikes, the push stops, whatever, I buy pre-tied. I think the quality is amazing. It's a real faff to tie hooks yourself when you've got a band and you've got to get the band right and the knotless knot. I'm not that dexterous. It just makes life easy for me, and I think they're of really good quality. I use Preston pre-tieds, and I also use Guru pre-tieds as well. The smallest that you can buy in the shop is 4-inch, and 4-inch does for most fishing circumstances. And whenever I get to a venue, I always start on a 4-inch hook length and just see how it goes. But sometimes what you find is you're fishing the method, your tip's moving, there's obviously fish there, but you're not getting the takes, they're not taking it. And I do wonder sometimes, and I've watched underwater footage, and clearly water moves around on the bottom. You can see bits of debris moving around whenever you see the videos. And I do wonder sometimes whether, even with a sinker or a hard pellet, your bait's just got moved away from your little pile that you've got with your method or your hybrid or your pellet feeder. The idea for using 2-inch, I do subscribe to The Edge, which is the online channel run by Lee Kerry and Rob Wootton. And Rob in particular is very big on small hook lengths and says it makes a difference. I always start on a 4, but if there's any in the back of my mind, I think there's fish there and they're not taking it, I will go to a 2-inch hook length. And what I will say is, when I'm fishing the pellet feeder, I quite often start on a 2-inch hook length, because the way that they're designed with your connector coming out the bottom with your little pile and then you're putting it back in, you don't need 4-inch at all. You want it to be near the little pile as it comes out. My favourite kind of baits for fishing on a 2-inch hook length are, I nearly always start on dead maggots when I go somewhere and I'm not sure how it's going to fish. A red and a white, it gives you a really good indication. If you're getting no bites on a red and white, you know it's going to be a tough day. You might start picking up some silvers, but equally there's days when the carp just want a light bait like that. They can suck up and you get lots of bites. The other thing that I have been using an awful lot this year is Sonarbait's micro bandom wafters, and I'll put a little photo of so you can see the size of them in my hand there. These are tiny little wafters, so they do naturally float a little bit, but I've found using something like a size 16 KKMB that has enough weight to just hold it, and I think it sits there in your pile. I don't necessarily think the colour makes a big difference. I think the fish just come in and suck everything there. They don't feel any resistance because it's a lovely light bait, and then you get a really good take. Here is a 2-inch hook length with one of them on. You can see there, I'm trying to get it focused, the size 16 hook, and it is a tiny little bait. Now, it isn't just a small bait for small fish. I've had some absolutely clonking fish on this over the last year, so don't get fooled into thinking you just need big baits for big fish. So the issues with 2-inch hook lengths, one is tying it, and it is a little bit fiddly, and I won't hide that, and you can see a video very soon of me tying one in real life. The other problem is storing it, and an awful lot of hook length boxes you buy maybe start at 3-inch and maybe even 4-inch and go right up to 12-inch or whatever. I have a Guru hook box that I use for my method feeder hook lengths, and this has a 3-inch to the first prong and then 4, 5 and 6. So you might think, how's he storing the 2-inch? Well, because you've got these at the top, I'm actually putting them on the top prongs. So you could actually get a 3 and then still a 2 above it. But I store them up there. It works perfectly well. They never come loose. You always need a bit of tension when you're putting your hook lengths in. That really works for me. So you might think I don't have anywhere to store them, but you maybe look and see whether your hook box would allow you to do that. There are some hook boxes out there that do have 2-inch measurements. I think Preston do one, and Guru do the adjustable one, so you can set it at 2-inch. So that's my storage device. It's also, I don't know if you can see, one of the sets of prongs is slightly raised than the rest. That enables me to measure much more easily as well, and you'll see that in the video that's coming up. The other thing you need is one of these. Now, if you're not using these for tying your loops, I think you're missing out, and I missed out for the first 35 years of my fishing, and then I had a go with one. I watched a couple of videos. John Arthur does a really good video on this, and I now have a technique for using this. I carry these in my box and I have them in my little tackle tray for when I'm preparing stuff. You need the smallest one of these. This is a small one. Guru do a double-ended one where it's a big at one end, a small at the other, but you do need the smallest one that you can find, and you'll see why in the video. I buy pre-tied, so when I'm thinking, oh, I'll get some 2-inch hook lengths ready, I don't buy 4-inch ones, I buy the 15-inch ones, and you'll see in the video. Now you might think, well, why do you do that? Well, part of the reason is they cost the same as the 4-inch. So, and having all that extra line just makes life a little bit easier. You can shorten 4-inch down to 2-inch, but it can just be a little bit too fiddly. If you are tying your own with the band, I would leave at least 6 to 8 inches at the top for tying the 2-inch hook length, then you don't have any worries as you're doing it. I'm going to put the video on now. This took 4 attempts to film. I still don't think it looks like I'm super efficient, but part of the reason is I'm sat there, I've then got the camera in front of me on the tripod, and I'm trying to work the other side, watching what's being filmed at the same time as doing it. So some of it, and the lighting wasn't the best. It was quite tricky, but I think in the video you'll see the best way of doing it, and I'll put a narrative over the video to talk you through it as well. Here we have my hook box, and as you can see, I'm using the Preston KKMB size 16 tied to 017. These come at a standard 15-inch in length on this blue winder. I also use these for the belly waggler. I tend to grab the bait band to take them off, and then take it off. You've got 15" of line. You don't need to cut that down because you're going to do that later, but that gives you some flexibility. So I take the hook and I hook it over one of the pins on the box, and then pull it round the pin that's 2" further away, trap the line, and then just lift that off. So I've therefore got where the loop needs to be. Hold that in your right hand. What you're trying to do now is get your fingers as close to the hook and the top of the hook as you possibly can without the hook sticking in your fingers, and I've got the loop. I then pass the loop over to form 2 loops about the same size. Take the small, and you can see why I need the small loop tire, thread it through, turn it round once, and then the slightly fiddly bit, you need to put the other loop over. I sometimes use my right hand just to ease that, and then pull it tight, and you've got your knot tied. Bring it round the loop tire. At this point I should have wetted it, and pull it tight. You've now tied your loop. Just moving that so you can see that clearer. So then take it off the loop tire. Just unthread that. And then we've got the hook length tied, and then we've got the surplus line above it. Just cut that back fairly tight, but not too tight to the knot. I don't think it makes a massive difference. And then we're finished. We've got the 2" hook length there ready to go in your box. So putting it in the box, I tend to put the loop on the pin first. I just think it's easier. Sometimes the loops are quite small. This one in particular was quite small, still usable. And then I tend to pull the bait band. You need some tension here. If you tie the knot correctly, there will just be a small amount of tension, and there it is in the hook box. As you can see, I've also got some 2" ones tied with a bait spike that I also use for method feeder fishing. Hope you followed the video. Hope it made it quite explanatory and something that you can try. Now, as with all things, you get better the more you do, and stick with it, because having these in your armoury will put more fish in your net at certain times. I wouldn't ever say just use 2" all the time, and if I'm using big wafters and bigger hooks, I tend to stick on 4" but for a lot of general purpose method hybrid pellet feeder stuff, I do think it can make a difference. Hope that's been useful information and that people like the video. There are some 50 something videos now on my YouTube channel. If you want to give me a thumbs up and a like, that's always great, spurs me on. I've got a couple more ideas for videos coming up. If you want to subscribe, you'll get automatically notified of future videos. Until next time, tie lines.